You joined us for Rain of Blood, and together we made it rain bigger and better than we could have ever imagined. So now, join us for a second blazing inferno of knowledge and exploration. You're listening to Rain of Fire, the scorching sequel event to Rain of Blood, where we're going to delve into the world of fire play education and safety as we prepare for the upcoming Rain of Fire event. Join your host, Miss Kitten, Radically Dark, and Ember Solaris as we ignite your curiosity and stoke the flames of passion with discussions, interviews, and authentic insights from around the globe. Together, we're three flames united in one mission to make quality kink education more accessible and open pathways to conversation and connection about edgeplay topics around the world. But before we dive into these sizzling topics, a content warning. Rain of Fire discusses mature themes, explicit content, and practices related to BDSM and fireplay. So listener discretion is advised, and this is an adult-only podcast. Other topics may include mental health, trauma, consent, and more. So please be sure you're in a good spot to engage in these topics before continuing to listen. So, grab your fire gear, stoke the flames of curiosity, and let's embark on this crackling journey together. Welcome to Rain of Fire.
Hey, fire starters. I am back and I'm really excited. I have a really amazing human for you guys today. I'm really pleased to welcome Kitty to my dungeon all the way from the UK with her amazing accent. So I'm really enjoying chatting to her and looking forward to speaking to her more today on this podcast. Welcome and thank you for your time.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited. You are an incredible performer and an incredible artist, and I just love your work. Total fangirl. My latex pony keeps saying to me, "When are you interviewing the beautiful girl from the UK?" And I'm like, when you're at work, because this has nothing to do with you. So you have a whole South African fan club already, and we're really excited that you're joining us for Rain of Fire. And we just want to tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what they can expect at Rain of Fire from you. But before we go into all of that, do you want to tell us a bit about your kink journey and how you, it's pretty awesome and pretty epic to see what you do. So how did you get into this? What were the first steps? And how did you stop being vanilla?
So horror movies is what made me stop being vanilla, I think. Back in the day. I think horror movies and just being a bit weird. You kind of just find things that maybe not everybody's into, and you think, oh, there's something a bit wrong with me. But eventually, we all meet people, and they go, oh, hey, do you know there's actually a network of us weirdos? It's not just you.
I love that, a network of weirdos. Definitely,
so that's how it happened.
Definitely can relate to that.
And then obviously I've always been into piercings and stuff like that. I mean, if anybody's seen what I look like, I'm covered in piercings. So I think it kind of the piercing and the needle side of things just came naturally, especially when I became a body piercer, because obviously needles became a part of my everyday life. So it was like it became more involved in my kink. And I think fire as well. So I've been doing needles on and off for probably about 10 years, but not seriously until sort of like the past few years. Fire, I've probably been doing that for around about 8 years now. That's...
And what started you in fire? What was the first thing that you picked up? And why do you love it? What is the appeal?
So I was really scared of fire to start with. I had a really, really, really deep fear of fire. And a friend of mine had a partner who was a fire performer. He used to do fire breathing and stuff like that. And they said to me one day, they were like, look, you need to get over this fear. Why don't you come and play with some fire with us? And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of fun. So I went down and, in their garden. And I think after a couple of hours that day, he'd managed to get me eating fire, and I was just hooked by that point. I couldn't believe that I was able to do that. And then the next time he started teaching me how to breathe. Obviously, I didn't breathe straight away. It took a long time before I actually started breathing fire, but I was practicing all the techniques and stuff. And I just got hooked from there. Then I bought myself a set of poi, a set of fire fans, and it went from there. And then I realized, oh, you can use this stuff in kink too. That was when I started playing with different types of fuel and things like butane bubbles and stuff like that. I kind of had the realization in my head that, oh, you can put these on other body parts as well as my hands. So that's kind of how that kind of started.
I love that. The fire is still a bit of an overwhelming force for me. I have a healthy respect for it. I also have no hair on my arms from my month of fire play. So I'm really beginning the journey. Like the first thing I learned was the smell of burning hair sucks.
Yes.
And you get to smell it twice, once when you burn your arm hair off and once when you shower. So it's like the gift that keeps on giving. It's like it's definitely like it has a return policy of its own.
When you start fire breathing as well, the taste of it is not nice.
I don't know. I need to baby steps. Also, we don't have anybody in our community that can show me this in person. Right. So I think I need some good mentorship before I start doing anything. I did spend the afternoon about 3 days ago just putting water in my mouth and getting used to the feeling of what that feels like, where it is, just identifying, just in case future me decides that fire breathing is going to be part of my bag of tricks. So I'm just testing the waters at the moment, but it's incredible to see. I've only seen it in videos. I've never seen it in real life. So it's really epic. We've got nobody here that wants to show me how to do it. So I've been asking, but they're not super keen on it. I love your sharps as well. Like I know that you are involved in sharps in the kink community as well as being a piercer. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what that looks like for you?
So I guess I started dabbling with it many years ago, probably when I really shouldn't have been dabbling with it, to be honest, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was young and stupid. And that's kind of how I got into it. And then obviously when I became a piercer and things like that, obviously it became a lot bigger part of my life. I think the first public sharps play experience I had was Leeds Tattoo Convention 2019. We did the fire wings. So that was like 8 piercings down my back, and then we attached Kevlar wicks to them with like a metal frame and kind of set it on fire. And I had these flaming wings down my back. It was really cool. And after sort of being on the stage and having, because I'd had needle stuff done privately, but I'd never had that many people watching it, and it was such a rush, and it was like, okay, this is fun. I need to do more of this. And that's kind of how it becomes a bit of an addiction, I think.
It's just listening to your story about, you're probably the one person that I could expect to say, and I just put needles in and then we put Kevlar wicks in. Of course you did. And then we set them on fire. Like, and you say it like, and then we went shopping and we bought 3 bags of potatoes, like that's such a huge deal. Like just the admin that goes into producing something like that from a setup point of view, from a management point of view, like there's a huge amount of work. That's not something that, you sort of jump on stage and shove 6 Kevlar wicks in. Like it's, that's a huge production. So
I have to admit, for me, I don't really do that much. There isn't a lot of work involved for me personally until I'm actually having the needles done. And, especially with that, I had a whole team behind it. So they engineered all of the equipment. They had it's a show called Circus of Madness. Unfortunately, they're not going anymore. But it was a big, stage production where there was fire performers, there was pole dancers, there was the needle show, all sorts of craziness going on. So they all kind of had everything in place. And I basically just got to go onto the stage and get stabbed. I didn't really have any planning or anything like that involved. I was very lucky. So most of the time, I do just kind of get to turn up and get stabbed without too much thinking involved.
It sounds like you got the best side of the deal. I'm always on the thinking. I'm always on the thinking side of the deal. I'm always putting it together. So for me, it's always huge work. But without the bottoms and without the canvases that we get to use, we wouldn't be able to put the show on. So I think you really form an integral part of it. And also the creative side, like just being. I've seen some of your Insta stuff, and your work is really creative. Your content creation looks like it takes you a huge amount of time. So hats off to you, because I know what work goes into it. One photograph is not always the simple, effortless photograph that it seems. And I think you
definitely.
need to be, I think you need to be rewarded for that, because there are hours. There are hours that go into that. So tell me a little bit more about your journey, because you're doing all these things and you have you have all these awards that you are in the running for, and you participate in a lot kink-wise. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about what that journey looks like for you?
So I get asked this quite a lot, of kind of like, I was on another podcast recently, and they said, tell us what you do, because they said it's very hard to pinpoint what you actually do because you do so many different things. There's obviously the fire performing and the sideshow performing, which is where I do things like eating glass, walking on broken glass, stapling things to myself, human pincushion, things like that. And that's kind of all on the kind of circusy side. And then I have the content creating side and the kink side, which is where I do all the other fun stuff. So I've recently just got back from Estonia, actually. I spent a week over there at a place called Warehouse X, which is, it's basically, I call it Sexy Big Brother. I don't know if there's any UK listeners that might know what Big Brother is. It's a TV show over here. And it's basically the whole house. You have the whole house has got something like 180 cameras in it, and you can watch it 24/7. And it's filled with content creators and porn stars. So that's where I've been for the past week or so. What else?
I love that. The Big Brother here was you're going back to my teenage years. I think I was still a kid, and we all sat enthralled watching it. So I can definitely relate to that, which I often can't relate to what the Americans say. So I'm glad you threw me something that was familiar.
Yeah, it was. We used to love watching that show, and now I get to do it with porn stars. So yay!
I think that's fantastic. And how was that experience?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, I've been over there a couple of times. I think this was my 4th visit over there. It's such good fun. You know, the house. There's always something going on. It's a really big fun party house. There's always some activities happening. There's always a bit of liveliness going on. It's really great fun over there. I can't wait to get back. I've only been home about a week, and I'm already like, get me back to Estonia.
And what's coming up? What's coming up next? What does your diary look like for the next couple of weeks?
Oh, that is a good question, actually. I'm not very good at knowing these things off the top of my head. I've got, what have I got? I've got performing at FetFest next month, which is a swinger festival and fetish festival in the UK. So I'll be performing my fire act there for the weekend with another performer called Hannah Hellfire. She's kind of like my performance best friend. We do a lot of stuff together, especially if it's like kink related, because she's on the kink scene too. So naturally we always go and do these things together. So that would be really great. If there is any UK listeners and you're interested, have a look at FetFest online, swingathon/Fet Festival. And there's also a content creators tent there as well for anybody who does do content creating and stuff like that. It's a really cool festival. There's lots of sex, there's lots of fetish, and there's lots of partying. It's really good fun. So that's definitely something to check out.
What does a content creating tent look like? You're talking to a South African who has no access to festivals, so we're incredibly jealous and living vicariously through your amazing life.
So this would be actually the first one that I know of. So it'd be the first one this year. So I can't tell you what it's going to look like because I don't know. But it's basically House of Bathory events. I've teamed up with FetFest. And it's basically a festival within a festival. So content creators who are verified content creators that have all had their, STD tests and things like that. They can all meet up. It's kind of like a networking area. You can meet up, you can network, there's places that you can film some content if you want to. Different stalls you can meet some traders for, things like kink candles. I think there's people with like a MedFet stand and stuff like that there. So it's a really good way for content creators to kind of all meet and talk about ideas and film some stuff if you want to.
Sounds amazing. It sounds like so much fun. And also half the work is done for you because your setup is already there and you're
exactly
hanging with a whole bunch of like-minded people. I just love that.
It gives people the opportunity to meet people that they wouldn't necessarily meet normally because you're all in one place together. So it's really cool. And you can, it's a really, really nice thing.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely awesome. I have a question about your performances, and you mentioned eating glass. So you have to tell me more about that, and how do you do that?
So this isn't a how-to. So don't, if anybody listens to this, don't just go out and try this and then blame me if you get hurt. But glass is just sand, so it's just a case of smashing it up, finding a nice flat piece, and then you just grind it back down to sand with your teeth, basically. You have to be very careful because, you can cut your tongue, you can cut your cheeks. But it is possible to do as long as you're very careful. It takes a lot of training. But yeah, that's the basics of it. A lot of people tend to ask me if it's fake glass. They say, oh, it must be sugar glass. But it's not. It is real. I am eating real light bulbs.
That is incredible. That is, I'm just in awe. I think anybody who can think outside the box is prepared to take a risk like that. I'm not encouraging the general public to do this. There is a huge amount of risk involved, and I know I've seen the work that Kitty puts into her content creation, and I'm quite sure that as much work goes into everything else that you do. This might look like a brilliant finished product, but there's a lot of training and effort. But that's incredible. And have you ever had a negative effect from eating glass?
Not yet. Touch wood. Find something wood in there. We go. Touch wood. Not yet. But there always is that risk. You just have to stay informed, stay alert, and look after yourself when you're doing it. But yeah, luckily I haven't had any injuries just yet.
And then walking on glass.
Walking on glass again. It's a similar concept to walking on coals, really. It's just the weight distribution.
I don't know if it's similar, Kitty. Like the walking on coals thing is always done at night, so that and those embers they're not. It's super prepared. That walking on coals is, yes, it is a weight distribution thing, but it's also a bit of a show because it's done at night, so that the coals glow through that you pick up the glow and you see the glow more, and it's a lot of it. It is hot, but it is also a lot of a visual effect. So definitely. I think your walking on glass is like bucket list compared to walking on coals. I've done the walking on coals thing. It's more mental than it is an actual physical
definitely.
Risk. I mean,
I did it a couple of years ago, and I was amazed at how it didn't feel as hot as I was expecting it to.
I think the risk for me, like I can trip in a straight line on a very flat surface. So I just have, that's my superpower. So I was terrified. Like, and as soon as you put me into a situation where there's people watching me do something, like I forget how to use my feet. They just become like cement blocks. So my biggest fear was not burning my feet. It was burning my face. Because I was like, just don't fall, just don't nosedive into the into the coals. If you can avoid that, you will have had a successful session.
Honestly, if you spoke to my partner, he would tell you that I am the most clumsiest person ever in my day-to-day life. So we are both amazed how I haven't actually hurt myself doing anything crazy yet.
Well, I did some needles, and I took pictures this morning of the needlework, and there's like 6 bruises down the side. I have nothing to do with the needlework. They make the needlework look really, really, really crazy, but they have nothing. They literally have to do with me putting my shoes on and getting dressed in the morning. I was like, at some point, I'm going to master the adulting part of my life, and I'm going to be able to get dressed without injury. It's going to be a good day.
Yeah, I would say I need a more adulty adult around, because I shouldn't be supervised, like left unsupervised.
Right? Like you leave me alone for 2 hours and you'll come home and I've tied myself with needles to something. Can I balance on one foot while standing on the bathtub with needles on my leg with strings attached to the window? Like, make a great photograph. Who's going to take the picture now that I'm in this position?
Yeah, that's one of my in this house. Like my sort of known saying is, "Daddy, help!" Because I get myself into some kind of position, and I'm like, "Daddy, I need help now, please."
I love the fact that needles are part of your life. I know this is a fire podcast, and I'm sure my fire people are really sick of me bringing up needles, but I was super excited to talk to you because of your body piercing experience, and that you combined that with kink. It's quite gatekept from the piercing side in kink. It's becoming more open and more accepted to be, for non-qualified people to explore it. But especially in my community, it's something that the body piercers aren't super keen. My body piercer hates me. He sees me coming and he's like, "Hell no, not you again." I don't want to know what you do with the jewelry. Don't tell me.
I've spoken to quite a lot of piercers about this, because it's something, obviously, I was into the kink scene before I was a body piercer. So I was doing needles before I was qualified. So I'm a very big believer that it shouldn't be gate kept, because people are going to do it regardless. And if we can, as body piercers, I get it. We don't want to teach people how to go and pierce themselves.
Yeah. Hey? Kitty, you've disappeared?
In general.
I lost you there for a second. Sorry.
Oh, I think my signal must have gone.
No problem. Just go back to gatekept.
Yes, it's something that I've spoken with a lot of piercers about, because obviously I got into needles way before I was an actual body piercer. So I was doing needle kink stuff way beforehand. So I'm a very big believer that we should share the safety information with everybody who wants it. There's a lot of body piercers that are very, very gatekeepy about it, and I completely understand why. We both know needles can be a very dangerous thing if done incorrectly. But that's the problem, is that the knowledge isn't out there for people to do these things correctly, and people are getting hurt. So yeah, I do. I think it's a big shame that it is very gatekept.
Yeah, I think the thing is, and I think you said it before, and I think a whole lot of us started the journey by sticking things in ourselves when we were younger.
Yeah.
And we really shouldn't have been doing it then, but we did it anyway. And there's going to be a whole new lot of youngsters that are going to be doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And I just like we really, that's why we ran the Rain of Blood, because we really just felt that the stuff was happening anyway. You can't unsee something once you've seen it. So if you see a gold standard, if you see a good setup, if you see good procedure to follow, and you have a little bit of that in the back of your mind, that'll come through naturally, because you can't unsee it. But you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know it, you have no idea how to give yourself the best experience possible.
100%.
And you're
100%
gonna have
agree.
look. You're gonna have. You're probably very similar to me in thinking like that nothing is impossible. And I will try everything once, at least once, maybe
Yes.
twice, just to check
Yeah.
that the
Just to make
first
sure.
the first time wasn't a fluke, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's lots of other people like us out there. So I think we're going to try it. So giving people a gold standard, rather than telling them they can't do it, which just makes me more intent on doing something.
Exactly.
Is better.
Me as a teenager, if you tell me that I couldn't do something, you bet I was going to do it 10 times just to prove you wrong. So I know that there's teenagers like that around now because we get them in the piercing shop. So yeah, obviously, I think being a piercer helps as well because I do get to see like the new generation of kids who are all sort of piercing themselves now, back when like we were doing 20 years ago, and it does kind of, I don't know, it just, I really do think, I wish that there was some kind of universally accepted training, that like basic training that everybody could have, or something like that, so that we, at least we know that people are coming into it with a good knowledge of what they're getting into.
Yeah, even just basic blood pathogens and stuff like bevel theory and just like some really simple basics that would make a difference between success and failure. And
I think a lot of people overlook first aid. They don't, especially if they're just doing it from home. I think they don't think that they need to know this stuff. But it's very important. You do need to know this stuff.
They'll learn it very quickly after they hit the needle in the wrong place the first time and it bleeds profusely. And we've all done that. So, I think that our piercers here, it's very difficult even just to get like a baseline. There is no baseline piercing course. You have to do an apprenticeship. So it's all like, and then I think because they already, the market's a bit flooded, nobody wants to take the apprentices on. So it's something that, then people go and do the sort of backyard idea of this version, which in Africa is terrifying. Totally terrifying. And the other thing is like a blood pathogen course here is super expensive.
Really?
And I think, so I think you sort of just restricting people who are just going to ignore that route of education and do it their own way. So I think opening it up is a better idea. But I find it's also similar with fire, that there isn't like a gold standard that's available to research.
Definitely. People are with fire, it almost feels like it's just a complete kind of free for all when it comes to information and stuff.
And it's what's been super interesting for me was listening to my own community when I interviewed them, and we don't have any kink fire players, but we have quite a big poi community, and although they are trying to follow regulations, the laws and regulations in this country are they're very well written, but they're not imposed on any level. So there's no, so nobody really takes them very seriously. So you find the conscientious players who through experience have learned that it's really important to be aware of safety standards and to follow them personally. And they've taken that sort of personal responsibility into how they play. But that's a personal choice because not everybody does that. So because the Americans all talk about safety officers and building regulations and all of that, we don't have any of that. It just doesn't exist here. So you really have to have your own sense of personal responsibility when you're playing with stuff like this. And it's also super hard to get these guys to want to teach it to somebody else. And I understand the fear of, giving people enthusiasm to set themselves alight. Like I do get that that's a problem. Like I feel like every time I get on this podcast, I'm encouraging people to burn stuff at home, which probably isn't the best idea.
So I had an incident a couple of years ago where somebody local to me was interested in doing some fire, blah, 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 blah. So I invited them to come and play with me. Just come and, watch me play. I can explain a few things because they were friends of mine, and it was kind of one of them like, yeah, I'm not going to teach you, but I can tell you what I know and you can watch me. So it was one of those. They came and watched me do a little bit of practice, asked a few questions, and I didn't really think anything of it, which was stupid on my part, really, because I was naive and just kind of thought that they would leave it at that. So they went home and ordered themselves a load of stuff. But they got the wrong fuel for themselves. So when they tried to fire breathe the next week with no training whatsoever, they ended up setting themselves on fire and ending up in hospital with like burns in their throat and stuff like that. And
wow,
yeah, that was one of those moments for me where I was like, okay, like I can't just show anybody what I do, I can't just let my friends come and watch my practice because they might fucking hurt themselves, and then that responsibility is kind of on me for showing them how to do this thing, without if I didn't mean to. So that was definitely one of those moments for me where like I do understand why it is very gatekeepy, because people are stupid and they hurt themselves.
Yeah, I think people are stupid and they're going to hurt themselves anyway. And I don't think you can, like the one thing King's taught me is you can't take autonomy away from a person. So they still have the right to make that decision.
It's very true.
Yeah. And, like the first rule of consent in kink is, arrive with your own autonomy. You have full right over your own body. I can't tell you what to do.
It's hard when you know that something like safety-wise, it's hard when you're when you know that you're trying to keep somebody safe, but they still want to do the thing anyway.
I think,
like you said, you do have to let people make their own mistakes. So
my first 5 years in kink, like I took that personal responsibility and formed consensual kink. I took that personal responsibility to mean that it was the entire thing was my personal responsibility. Like, and I think Fire's taught me a little bit to relax about that and to share that everybody has a collective responsibility. And Fire's a great kink for that, because you have to have a spotter who is has capacity and who is present. You have to have your model who has capacity and is present. And all of these people have got to be using their own voice. And then the top is doing the same, has capacity and is present. But it's not just the top's responsibility. There's a shared responsibility in that room. And I think we don't, I think as a top, when I started off in kink, I was so scared of fucking up because accountability was this dreaded thing in the community that was feared. And then you kind of get on your journey a little bit and you realize that the personal responsibility, it's my responsibility to share what I know and to mitigate risk and to identify risk, but I can't dictate what your risk budget is or how you spend your risk budget, or
100%.
Yeah, or what shoes you buy with it. That's your choice. And the only way you learn, like I was one of those kids that when I joined kink, I was fucking crazy. I was psychotic. Like,
me too. Like everything it was basically self-harm at that point.
Exactly. Like it was self-harm and harming some others in the process. And the thing was that it was only through my own education of myself. And that for me, even today is still done by experimenting and, the whole for science thing. I'm really lucky because I have this for science team behind me who stopped me from killing myself on a regular basis. They're great. Voice of reason. My dungeon second is called Mother Russia for a reason, because she literally can stop a bomb from happening. But it's only through that and then learning that the intimacy through sharing this stuff. But for a long time I tried to keep both hands on the reins, and I think I actually just came across as a controlling bitch. Yeah.
It's a hard line to like kind of tiptoe on, isn't it?
Yeah, I do feel in kink that, sometimes, if the person's prepared to go out and spend the money and invest in the journey, that Godspeed and bless them.
100%, yes, definitely. It's like we say, you know, we were all beginners once, and I think a lot of people in the kink scene forget that. There is, I don't know if you experience it where you are, kind of, but I've definitely seen that there can be a lot of elitism in the kink kind of scene, especially when it comes to fire and needles. And just any of the more extreme kinks, there does seem to be a bit of sort of elitism from some people, which is a bit of a shame because, you know, like, you know, we all came from somewhere, we all started doing stupid things that we shouldn't have been doing, and we've all had to grow and learn. And, you know, it was only by people around us that could kind of teach us and say, hey, maybe that, you know, you're not doing this quite right. Why don't you try this way? And I think people kind of forget that, and they see, you know, new people coming onto the kink scene now, and there's a lot of judgment and a lot of, there can be a lot of disrespect towards sort of new people. And I don't think it's always warranted, if you know what I mean.
I agree with you, and I think that it's a consent thing with a lot of the time, is that people come into kink expecting to ask for permission for something, and they're not asking for consent. So
yes.
My advice to the newbies is stop before you die. Just stop for a second.
Yeah.
And
I know what you're saying.
Break the word consent down, because you actually need to be consenting with yourself.
Yes.
And you're not asking yourself any of the questions. You're just asking yourself for permission to do the thing. And I think it's out of fear for the harm that a violation creates in the community. And I think a lot of the time we're trying to protect. I know a lot of my friends are tops, and I'm a lot of my fear comes from them getting hurt with playing with the newbies, because when it goes wrong, it affects lives, like it really does, and harm carries. I mean, harm carries so much, and I actually only realized that I'd done this. I read a story about fire when I first joined kink. And then I went on this whole my religious journey into consent, and then I preached it like a spiritual leader for a good couple of years, because I was like, "You people are mad. You're crazy. You're not swingers. Be better." And you know, I shared this horror story of this fire story throughout my own community to the point, I actually think that's why our local dungeon won't let us do fire, because of that story. It didn't happen here. It happened in America. But it's amazing how the harm carries. And even just that story, the harm from that story has carried. Yeah, so I think we do protect our community a little bit, which I think is fair. But
yes, definitely.
You know, we have to do. I have got much better. Like, I'm much better about saying, if you want to do needles, here are the needles. Like, I'm super happy to pierce you. If you can put 5 needles in yourself, I'll put 50.
Yeah,
you've got to be the one that's doing it. You also got to be the one to go and buy the needles, because I'm not providing you with the drugs.
Yes, that's it, definitely.
Yeah. So if you're prepared to put the work in, and you're prepared to come to me with the needles, sure, we can do 700. Like, I'm in it. I'm always in it to win it. It's a yes from me, but I'm not prepared to harm you unless you are prepared to take that step to do it yourself.
Yes, definitely. I think with especially with tops, there is more of a kind of a expectation that you're gonna magically know what's best for every sub in the world, and that you're gonna look out for us all. And in the reality, you are just people the same as everybody else. Can't put that response. Sorry, my cat is going crazy there. You can't put all that responsibility just on the top, like you were saying. You know, it's up to everybody to have that shared responsibility of looking after each other and themselves, for sure.
And I think you bottom for a lot of stuff, and you sound like your voice is pretty strong. And I think that a lot of people come into kink and see tops as gods a little bit, and they're not. We're certainly not. We're just human. And then they're scared to say no, and they're scared to use their voice. And the one thing that fire has taught
100%.
me is you need an active bottom. They must top from the bottom. If they're not vocal and they're not telling you what's going on, somebody might die. Like literally, this is closest to death that they might get. So, and when I came into the community, that was, I think it's changed a lot, but it wasn't cool to have a voice as a bottom. You did what the top told you to do. And I think that's changing. And I think that, that personal responsibility thing comes in. And I think if you can show up ethically with a voice in kink, those are the people that I'm always willing to help because they are realistic. And then I think as a top, and I think maybe as a PSA, you'll agree with us, like the people that come to me and have done their research, that aren't just like, yeah, use me, do me.
Yeah.
The people that are like, like, I want this. I've looked at this. This is why I don't want it done this way. This is why I want it done this way. What do you advise? What are your recommendations? I can really work with that. There's a collaboration happening between us, and we can really create something super fun. But the people that just sort of pop into my inbox and, mistress, please castrate me.
Yeah,
I always say
this
yes.
thing to me. It's like, come on, please.
Yeah, it's like, mistress, please castrate me. I always say yes to this and then provide them with my PayPal details, and nobody ever gives me a tribute.
Yeah.
Never gets past that point. But that's the thing. Like when it's completely unrealistic and you haven't thought the thing through, I can't help you. That's not my job either. Yeah. No, that's absolutely super. We're excited. What are you bringing to Rain of Fire for us?
So I'm going to keep it quiet yet, purely because I haven't 100% decided what I'm doing. But there's going to be, I'm going to basically just show off some of the things that I can do with fire. So some vapor tricks, hopefully some bubble stuff. I've got some other ideas, but I don't want to give anything away just yet.
Awesome. I can't wait. I am stalking you on Instagram, loving every second of it. You make me smile when I see your stuff. So anybody listening, stalk this beautiful human. She'll make your day better. She makes mine better. We have a whole
that's so lovely.
Kitty fan club in SA. So we really support you, and I love your bravery and how authentic you are with what content you produce. It's beautiful to see, and wishing you all the best of luck. And can't wait to see you soon at Rain of Fire.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you asking me to come on and have a chat with you. And you've been absolutely lovely. It's been really, really sweet to talk to you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kitty. And to all my Rain of Fire listeners, if you haven't got a ticket, what are you doing with your lives? People, really? You are...
Get them now.
Yeah, get them now. I think we're going to extend early bird for a couple of days until we pop our schedule out. So you'll have a little bit of time to still get an early bird ticket. As always, we have sponsorship tickets and scholarship tickets. If budget is an issue, please just pop us a DM. We believe that education should be for everybody, and that there shouldn't be a limit on it. So we don't want to limit you. We want you to attend. We want you to be part of the community, and we want everybody who needs education to get it. And then I hope you are keeping a blaze of things at home and staying lit. And from my dungeon in Cape Town to wherever you are in the world, lots of love and kitten kisses.